best way to go. He wants to show us his will. He wants to show us what's true and what's right. And so we have to yield to him and rely on him when we make decisions. He was the 3rd overall pick for the Charlotte Bobcats. I grew the stash. I went all in, and he was a total letdown. It was devastating. Absolutely devastating.
That is an unbelievable reality that a perfect God would die for me and save me.
And if you know anything about me, I don't like the field goal kickers. Now, I like them as individuals. Some of them have been on the show over the years. Some of them I've met in person, and I love them. They're great people. However, in those types of moments, I don't want to see the kicker.
Welcome to the Unpacking It Live podcast. Monday following the Masters. I'm Bryce Johnson. Hope you're doing well today. I'm joined by Luke Heaton. I'm joined by Henry Bienamine behind the glass, so to speak, virtually. We'll hear from him in just a little bit. But for the next hour, we will unpack sports, faith, and life with the Unpacking It community of sports fans. Be sure to subscribe to this show on YouTube, like our page on Facebook. For those of you that listen to the podcast later, we appreciate you, and hopefully you are subscribed in Apple Podcasts or on Spotify and anywhere else you find your podcast. Also, today on the show, we will do a segment called Unpack This, which is a thought about sports and how it relates to faith and the Bible. And we send out a devotional Monday, Wednesday, Friday that you can subscribe to for free by going to our website, unpackingit.com. Wow. The Masters over the weekend. It was great to have it back in April. And we're going to unpack kind of all the different storylines. And during Unpack This, we'll actually talk about Hideki Matsuyama and the pressure that he felt and the pressure that he overcame in order to win the Masters, and look at even a couple of other golfers and how they reacted to the pressure as well. So we'll have some fun with that. We'll also do what we're convinced of. So we will let you know what we are convinced of in just a moment. We always love to hear what you are convinced of. And so you can leave those comments anywhere you're listening right now. Let us know what you are convinced of today. I've also got a question of the day, kind of random, kind of fun. What does watching the Masters make you want to do? So if you're watching it over the weekend and you're watching these guys hit incredible shots, sometimes hit it into the water, and maybe you're looking at the beautiful green grass. So does it make you want to go play? So do you use the clicker and say, all right, I'm out, I'm going to go play? Do you say, ooh, I can't wait to go outside and work on my yard and attempt to get your grass that green? Or does the Masters make you take a nap and you love Sunday at the Masters in order to take a nice little nap? So leave those comments as well wherever you're listening, and would love to hear your thoughts on that. Before we hear what Luke is convinced of and I share what I'm convinced of, let me ask you this. Do you need to get your own health insurance? Well, go to healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options, healthmarketgenius.com. Support them as they support us. Also today on the show, we will hear from this year's Unpacking It Bracket Challenge champion. That's right. We did the pool and people sent in their brackets. We have a winner. And part of the prize pack was being interviewed here on the Unpacking It Live podcast. And so at about 11:10 Eastern, we will welcome on the champ to talk about how he ended up picking Baylor. And we'll talk a little bit about the championship game. It's a week later. So we were with you on Monday before the championship, and then we saw Baylor absolutely dominate. And so we'll have to get into that in just a little bit as well. But first up, let's say good morning to Luke Heaton, who's in Texas. Luke, good morning to you. How are you doing, man?
Good morning, Sir Bryce Johnson. It is a phenomenal Monday. I'm coming off the high of March Madness and Masters.
Yes.
So I think today is like just the dark days. The dark days of, oh my gosh, my two favorite sporting events, they're gone for a year. But hey, it's time to rest up in order to be ready to report back for next year for more April and March action. But
you love it.
Yes.
We got the draft coming up. We got the NFL draft. We got the NBA playoffs right around the corner. So there's enough to get excited about.
And usually I'm very sad after the Masters is over because March Madness, even though it's my favorite sporting event, I still have NBA basketball. There's still hoops going on. But when the Masters is over, yes, there's other major championships, but they just don't live up to the glory of the Masters. But it's a Ryder Cup year, baby. So,
ooh, a little bonus.
Since it didn't happen last year, we have the Ryder Cup coming up, I think, in September. I could be wrong, so maybe someone fact check me on that. But looking forward to that. But yes, it's a great Monday. Lots of great things to discuss. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so you joked and said Sir Bryce Johnson or whatever you said, and I imagine that's a kind of a homage to Sir Nick Faldo. let me ask you this: how annoying is that? How annoying? Like, so I love Jim Nance, and I'm not going to blame Jim for that, but just the idea that he calls him Sir Nick Faldo multiple times throughout the tournament. I understand whatever it means. He's been knighted, but every time do we have to call him Sir Nick Faldo? Like he's some kind of I don't know. He's above us in some way. The all-knowing golf analyst. Come on. Really?
Well,
I was thinking yesterday, I was like, do I like Nick Faldo's analysis anyway? And maybe I just get annoyed because they call him Sir Nick Faldo all the time. Am I off base here?
He's certainly not all-knowing. Yeah, I struggle. It's this catch-22 of looking at it from an American perspective. Calling someone Sir Nick Faldo definitely has annoyance to it. But what does everyone in the UK think? Like maybe it's normal. Maybe there's a lot of sirs walking around. And there's more people that have been knighted there than here, I'm sure. But yeah, he certainly is not error-free in his analysis.
I like his voice and the tone for a tournament. I think it fits well. But sometimes I don't even know what he's saying necessarily. It's just like the sound of the flow and the tempo of the day.
He's not sure. He's not sure what he's saying sometimes. He just speaks to speak to fill airtime. I think the biggest takeaway of broadcasting blunders this week at the Masters was the heavy breathing from the broadcasters. Time and time again.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting out there. Literally, it was. I'm like, hey, someone mute their mic. Are the producers asleep? Like, poor Vern. I felt like Vern was out there walking the course with the players. He was gassed. Like,
I was just happy to have Vern. I was happy to have Vern. Because Vern, he's no longer at March Madness, so we miss him there, but they bring him out of retirement for the Masters.
So he doesn't bring a lot besides his name. So we're all like, Vern. His voice is great. So I'm sure everyone in the broadcasting booth is saying, Vern, all we need you to do is say the player's name at the 16th hole. So every time they'd cut it to the 16th hole, it was Vern saying, and here's Tommy Fleetwood. This is Tony Finau. And that was it. Hey, that's all I need. But
glad to have a part of it.
Mute his mic because he sounds gassed on the broadcast. It was brutal.
Oh, poor Uncle Vern. Gosh, that's tough. That is tough. Well, we'll get into all the different storylines with the Masters. And before we do that, let's start with I'm convinced. And I'm going to go non-Masters for this because some big news here in Pantherland. As you know, I'm a Panthers fan. And so I'm convinced Sam Darnold is worth a flyer, and I actually am convinced I like the trade that the Panthers made. However,
I love this take.
I am trying to convince myself that he's actually going to be good. So there's a difference between liking the trade and liking the idea of Sam Darnold versus actually believing that he can be good. And so that's where I'm torn. Because I've seen different takes, like from different numbers or analysis. And, this idea that, was he really that good at USC? So that's one thing, maybe not. And then was he the problem with the Jets? Was it truly Adam Gase? Was it truly the fact that there weren't many weapons around him? I'm convinced that I want to see him with the Panthers, with McCaffrey, with DJ Moore, with Robbie Anderson again, because Anderson was with the Jets. So I'm convinced it's worth going for it. Trading a couple picks. I mean, you hate to give up draft capital, but I don't think it was too much. The fact that the Panthers did not give up a first rounder, I think, was the key for me. And Sam Darnold's only 23. And so oftentimes we write off these guys way too early. And sometimes quickly. You know that, all right, Blaine Gabbert, Blake Bortles, these guys just, they don't have what it takes to get to the next level. Josh Rosen, I think some of those guys you did know quickly. But because there is still that question with Sam Darnold, if you're the Panthers and you didn't have enough to get Matthew Stafford, you're out on Deshaun Watson. That's a whole separate story, but you move on from him. And then you look across the league and you go, do you want a flyer with Jimmy Garoppolo? Nah, plus he's got a big contract. So Darnold is cheap. He's young. You didn't have to give up a ton. Bring him in. Let's see what he's got. Let's see what he can do with these weapons. Let's see what he can do with the coordinator, Brady. And then you try it out for a year or two. And then if it works, great. If not, it's worth the effort. It's worth bringing him in. So I'm convinced the Panthers made a great move. I will also say this. I'm convinced that when you bring in a guy that fails on another team or it doesn't work out, doesn't click, it's not as exciting as when you draft a quarterback on your favorite team and you watch that player develop and become the guy. Like, I even would have to argue that as exciting as it was for Bucs fans to win with Tom Brady, or even with the Broncos winning with Peyton Manning, that's not your guy. He's not your guy. But Peyton Manning is a Colt. Tom Brady is a Patriot. Yeah. And Sam Darnold, not that he was with the Jets that long, so maybe it's probably not the best comparison, but just part of me goes, yeah, but I kind of want my own guy. I don't want somebody else's leftovers in regards to Sam Darnold. Oh, they're kind of a cast off. Do I want a cast off? I don't know. Here's what I'm convinced of. I would actually prefer finding the diamond in the rough. So my favorite Panther ever is Jake Delhomme. He was a diamond in the rough. The Dallas Cowboys, your team, Luke, they found Tony Romo. The Seahawks, they found Russell Wilson. The Packers, even though I guess Brett Favre was a cast off from the Falcons. So maybe that's the best case scenario. There you go. So that's all that around about maybe Sam Darnold could be the next Brett Favre. How about that? All right, there you go. That's what I'm convinced of. What about you today, Luke?
First, before what I'm convinced of, just a little commentary on your takes. First, we got to start. We had to get a Jake Delhomme reference counter going for the Unpacking It Live podcast, because it is impressive your ability to drop Jake Delhomme's name. Hey, I love it. I love the commitment, the loyalty, the fandom. I love it. Second, absolutely love your take on if you don't draft him, they're not your guy. That's why before Kevin Durant, I thought people who hated the Warriors were incorrect, because they drafted their guys. You drafted Draymond, Clay, Steph. I mean, you love a team that finds draft capital. You start hating a team when they start going out and buying players. That's why in English Premier League soccer, you just go buy players. The richest team buy players, and it's easy to, you hate opponents there. And then think of the most hated teams in American sports. It's the teams that go out and just sign free agents and load up. But if you're a team that finds guys in the draft,
it's so rewarding.
That's something to root for. Exactly. So I love that. I love that take.
Yep.
And then, I think I'm with you on Darnold. I think horrific situation with the Jets. He's young. Yeah, Henry's saying $9.7 million cap hit for 2021. So very cheap, like you said. Young.
Relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, yes, of course. But you put him in a good situation. We don't know necessarily what that's like. And I'm still, you can put if he ends up just being a B level quarterback, a B level quarterback can find great success in a good environment. So if the Panthers continue using their cap space to make a great situation for an average to good quarterback, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
in some ways he reminds me of the Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer type of guy. Like he doesn't have, he doesn't have the athleticism or the big arm or anything that's going to wow you. But maybe at 23 he develops into a solid quarterback like you're talking about. So
yeah, build the offensive line, give him some weapons, make a satisfactory defense. Hey, that's a team right there. Okay, so what I'm convinced of, we're going to bring it back to golf like I usually do. So I'm convinced that professional golf is a better viewing experience with lower scores. So I think it's far more relatable if you see the best of the best. I was telling Henry this before the show. When I get to watch the best of the best golfers in the world struggle and have lower scores, that's an incredible viewing experience. I don't want to see in so many tournaments out here. That's why the USGA is thinking about rule changes. Should we roll back equipment? Should we make courses longer? Because players can go out in a lot of tournaments and the winning score is 25 under, 20 to 25 under. I want to see around the 10 under mark. And what we get with Augusta National Golf Club is incredibly sloped fairways and greens. These greens are brutal. So if the course plays firm and fast, like these players are struggling out there, which I want to see relatable golf, because when I go play golf, yeah, I have triple bogeys, I have double bogeys, I have bad shots. Like I want to see the
I only
same,
have birdies. I can't really relate. But.
That's fair, understandable, yeah. But I want to see the best of the best actually struggle instead of hit fairway, throw it on the green, make birdie every time. So there was holes this week where, like the fifth hole, and the fifth and the seventh hole were brutal. So the fifth hole, you have a tough tee shot, and then the green is almost impossible to put in the right spot. So players are making high numbers, and they're actually struggling, and it makes them consider, what strategy should I use? What club? And it's so awesome to see, wow, these are the best players in the world, and they're struggling. Like this is giving them a test. It's very demanding because it makes them be very creative and strategic, and I love it.
See, yeah, and the problem with like sometimes maybe the U.S. Open or especially the Open Championship overseas is some of those get when the wind is so bad or it's like the weather, and then it becomes like all it is bogeys, and it's like who makes the least amount of mistakes. That to me, I don't enjoy that as much. So I love that yesterday we saw a few guys where you go 3-4 holes in a row. We saw birdies. And so even though they were struggling for a while, then John Rahm gets back into contention. So to me, that's what Augusta provides. It gives you a little bit of everything. And that's why we love it. That's one of the reasons why we love it. And so I'm with you. I like even 5-6 under as the champ. Like those are great tournaments as well.
100%. I agree. Because so when Xander Schauffele goes 4 birdies in a row and then triple bogey, that's incredible. And there's other tournaments where a player goes 4 birdies in a row and they're like, oh, well, yeah, 6 guys did that today because the court, everyone's shooting 64. Like I want 65, 66 to be an incredible score. I'm with you. For me, like anywhere from like the 6 to 10 under range, I think that's a great final score because players are struggling. And if you make a few birdies in a row, you're back in contention. So I think it makes for a way better viewing experience.
And one other thing is I love when a tournament ends, one shot win. And that's what we got. We kind of backdoored into that, but it was a one-shot win versus somebody pulling away, winning by 5 or 10. And you know, the champion isn't in question on Sunday. That's always a bummer. And we felt that a little bit because Hideki Matsuyama was really pulling away. But then it got interesting right toward the end, which kept the intrigue alive. Maybe the last 2 holes, it wasn't the case, but at least a little bit before that. And before we jump in to unpack this, let me just say this. I'm also convinced that Will Zalatoris is my new favorite golfer. I am all in on Zalatoris. Let's go. I was pulling hard for him, man. What an incredible performance, like all weekend long. To me, the way he played, the shots he hit, that like just it seemed like he'd be in a tough spot, and then he would just he got himself out of it. And I loved his personality. I loved how he carried himself. It was great. So I love the Happy Gilmore caddy comparison. And then he's even got it written on his clubs where he says, "Hi, Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy." I love it. Adam Sandler jumped in on the joke on Twitter. All of it was great. So Will Z, I am in. You've got a fan in me for sure.
And I love that you bring up Zalatoris. One, he's a local guy around the DFW area. He went to high school here, so a lot of people are going for him.
But he went to Wake, so he's got the North Carolina connection.
That's right. So you and me it's like the middle ground of our fandom. So yeah. But what's incredible, his first time ever playing in the Masters, every single year, veterans will say, "Yeah, I learned something new about Augusta every year that helps me." And his first time playing Augusta in a tournament, I think that makes his tournament even more incredible. The fact that he finished solo second is incredible for any player at Augusta. But his first time there, not knowing anything, going in blind essentially, that is unbelievably remarkable. And he doesn't even have his tour card. He's on the Korn Ferry Tour. How is that possible? How is someone this good not on the PGA Tour officially? It mind-blowing.
It's so great. And I thought just the way his demeanor was, the way that he answered questions after the tournament, he made for a very likable player.
He went along with the bits. Like you said, the Happy Gilmore bit, an Owen Wilson bit. He was going along with it.
Yeah, that's pretty good too. And so that transitions into today's topic in regards to Unpack This, where we take a sports story related to the Bible, related to our own lives. And today's topic it's very personal to me. It's something that I am personally wrestling with, even in the moment. And so I don't have all the answers today. This is a discussion. This is an encouragement for all of us, starting with me. And it's this idea about pressure and stress and being overwhelmed. And to me, when you watch the tournament this weekend, you see this in full scope. You see how players handle pressure, how some get caught up with the pressure. And speaking of Zalatoris, that was the thing. He was playing without pressure, really. And now what's fascinating is now the pressure will be on him, like moving forward. So he was able to play this one tournament with no pressure because it was his first time. Nobody expected him to do anything. He could just go out with confidence, with ease, and just enjoy the tournament and play. Well, now the pressure is going to be on him because now we have the expectation. Hey, man, you finished second in the Masters in your first time out there. You got to keep this going, right? And over the years, what have we seen with Jordan Spieth? The pressure got to him. The pressure of being the next great golfer got to him. We saw over the weekend Justin Thomas, who was playing well, early in the tournament. I thought maybe would compete on Sunday. Totally, kind of collapsed and not a good finish on the weekend for Justin Thomas. And so we understand that there is pressure at Augusta. There's pressure for these golfers that are out there, and every one of them handles it differently at different holes. And what's interesting as fans and even the analysts and the media trying to figure out, okay, did this guy struggle on hole number 12 or hole number 9 because of the moment, because of the pressure that he was feeling, or did he just hit a bad shot where something was off? He just didn't, his motion was wrong, or he missed, kind of calculated what was needed on that hole, miscalculated the wind or whatever it was. Sometimes that happens. That's part of the deal. But oftentimes it does come down to how players respond to the pressure, stress, and the moment of potentially being overwhelmed by the moment. And so when we think about Hideki Matsuyama, who won the green jacket yesterday, and to be out there representing a country.
Yeah.
Think about the pressure that he was feeling yesterday. To not only, you feel the pressure that you put on yourself. You want to be great. You want to win. You want to, hit every shot the way that it's supposed to, you're supposed to. Well, then add in the pressure that when you have the lead, Now everybody's coming to get you. Everybody's trying to knock you off. You've got the lead on Sunday. Can you hang on to that lead? And so you got that pressure, and then throw in the fact that you got a whole country behind you. They woke up at 3 a.m. to watch him. And so he feels all of this. And so the parallel for us today is all of us feel pressure in some way or another. And the burden of, like for Matsuyama, the burden of being in first place. Like, it's a real experience and it's awesome. You want to be in first place, but there's a burden that comes with it. And there was a burden that I imagine he felt with being the guy that they were hoping was going to represent Japan and be the first guy to win a major and win the Masters and represent Japan. There's a burden to that. And so there was a headline on ESPN.com that says, the burden of being Hideki Matsuyama was lifted at the Masters. And I actually disagree with that headline, because I don't think the burden was lifted. I think the pressure now is still on him because now he's a Masters champ, right? Now he's got to go out and win another one. It doesn't remove the pressure. And so for you and I today, and so Luke, as we talk about this and bring this home, we all have pressure. There's pressure in life. And we live in a broken world. Things aren't perfect. We talked about the pursuit of perfection on last week's show with Gonzaga. And this idea that, there's pressure at work. There's pressure at home. There's pressure to be a husband, to be a father, to be a son. And there are responsibilities. They can become burdens that they carry a weight in our lives. And so my challenge to us today, or I guess what I've realized, my realization, is that we can't necessarily remove the pressure. It's going to be there. And so what do we do in response to the pressure? And as always, the answer to all of it is Jesus, right? So when we have questions, when we have concerns in life, the answer is Jesus. And so I've been wrestling with this topic because I put pressure on myself. I feel pressure in life. And oftentimes when I am dealing with the negative consequences of pressure, I'm putting the weight on myself instead of allowing Jesus to do what he wants to do, which is walk with me, to carry the burdens, to carry my load for me. And he's there available to me, to you today. And oftentimes we try to carry the burden, we carry the pressure on our own, and it cripples us. It brings us down. We hit the ball into the water, right? When that happens. And so I am in the process of reading a book right now called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I highly recommend it.
Unbelievable book. Unbelievable.
You've read it.
Book. Oh, it's incredible.
It's honestly, so I'm about not even halfway through. And I can already say that it's one of the best books I've read, and one of the most important books for me and kind of where I'm at in my own journey in life. And so I want to read a few things that I think speak to this topic. And so let me first read the Bible verse that we want to hone in on today. And that is in Matthew 11, 28 and 30. And if you've been around church, you've heard this verse before. But Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." And so when we actually follow Jesus and we trust Jesus, it's not that we're adding burdens to our life. We're not adding more pressure. Jesus is removing that because he wants to carry the yoke. And so the yoke, two different explanations for it, which is pretty cool. One is the agricultural aspect to this, where when two animals, they're yoked together, so they're carrying the burden together, type of thing. And so when Jesus takes the yoke, he's carrying the yoke, the burden for us. And so we're connected to him in that way. And so let me just pause there for a moment, catch my breath. Luke, let me have you jump in, and then I want to dive into this book a little bit.
Yeah. So I can't wait to talk about this book a little more. I read it last summer, and
Awesome.
It's incredible. So excited to jump back into that. But yeah, this idea of pressure, man, one, being a human. If you are a member of the human race, you feel pressure. That is
just like if you're a golfer, when you're out there on Sunday at Augusta, you feel pressure.
That's right. It is inevitable feeling pressure. And it's how you deal with it. It's become a cliche. It's how you deal with the pressure because it's going to be there. And the best golfers in the world are almost like robotic. Like what made Tiger so great is he was a robot. he had a short memory. He blocked everything out, and he just focused on playing golf, which is so hard to do. Even when I play golf with buddies and we'll compete, we'll bet a Dr. Pepper on the line. It's the high stakes I'm playing with on the golf course. But even that, if it's a close match down the stretch, I start to feel pressure, and it's so easy to get in your head, get negative thoughts over a golf swing, which, you cannot hit a good shot if you have negative thoughts. So how do you live a life of holiness and righteousness of all these negative thoughts and pressure, and it's almost like not wanting to mess up? And we've talked about this a handful of times. It brings back to why do we have this pressure? Because, like you said, the burden of following Christ is light. The yoke is easy. From an eternal perspective, there is no pressure. We've been saved and redeemed from eternal death, eternal separation from God. Like, there's nothing we have to earn. There is no pressure of us earning our way into a relationship with God. And that sentence gets thrown around all the time in church and in ministries and in accountability groups. But do we actually mean it? Do we actually believe that and live that out? Because the real pressure is not being in relationship with Christ. That is some serious pressure. And it's because you have the pressure of trying to fulfill an impossible task, trying to be righteous enough to be in relationship with God. That is some pressure right there. Imagine being a golfer and this shot is darn near impossible. That is some pressure. And then the pressure of being a human and knowing I cannot be holy enough by myself, that is pressure. But Christ took away that pressure with his death and resurrection.
Amen.
So let's live in that. Like there's no pressure to be righteous enough. And every day I almost have to ask God, why don't I appreciate that enough? Because that is miraculous. It's marvelous that I've been redeemed. The pressure's taken away. Like, yes, like I'm supposed to take up my cross daily, and like suffering for Christ is inevitable, and whatever that looks like. But that compared to not being in a relationship with God, it's incomparable. So yeah,
cool.
there is no pressure. It's just hard.
So I love that Jesus has taken the pressure for us to have to try to, live that perfect life and try to earn our way to heaven, earn salvation. So he's removed that pressure. Now we continue to live in this world with ultimately worldly pressures, right? That in this fallen world, in this broken world, that they're going to be there. There's pressure to make money. There's pressure to be the husband that we want to be and the father that we want to be. And going back again to your point, we can't do it on our own strength. We can't do it by just enough willpower in our own strength, because it's never going to happen. We need Jesus' strength and help. And so that's why we have to trust him to carry the burden for us. And so we yield to him. And so let me read this from the book. This is a quote from a guy named Frederick Dale Bruner, who wrote this aspect of the book. Here it says, but Jesus realizes that the most restful gift he can give the tired is a new way to carry life, a fresh way to bear responsibilities. Realism sees that life is a succession of burdens. We cannot get away from them. Thus, instead of offering escape, Jesus offers us equipment. Jesus means that obedience to his Sermon on the Mount, his yoke, will develop in us a balance and a way of carrying life that will give more rest than the way we have been living. And so then later on in the book, it says, life is hard, full stop, no comma, no but, no end note. So it's just this acceptance that life is hard. And sometimes we try to escape that life is hard, or we try to live in denial that life is hard. No. It's hard. But Jesus is offering us a different way to approach the pressure, the different way to approach the burdens and the responsibilities. And so let me read this. He offers his apprentices, us disciples, followers of Jesus, a whole new way to bear the weight of our humanity with ease at his side, like two oxen in a field, tied shoulder to shoulder, with Jesus doing all the heavy lifting at his pace, slow, unhurried, present to the moment, full of love and joy and peace. An easy life isn't an option. An easy yoke is. I love that because I think oftentimes I want this easy life, or I want things, man, I just wish life was easier. And it's like I'm chasing after something that's not going to happen. Life is hard, but the easy yoke is Jesus with me side by side, not trying to do life on my own, not my own strength. It's with him. It's him carrying the burden, him carrying the load, but I have to slow down. I have to be patient. I have to be with him each day, not running ahead of him, not trying to do things that ultimately don't matter, and trusting him each step of the way. So that's the encouragement today. We saw the difference between, golfers and how they handle pressure out on the course, and the ones that do well and end up winning, but the pressure doesn't go away. Zalatoris, now the pressure is on him to keep it going. Hideki Matsuyama, the pressure continues, but how will they respond? And from a golf perspective, they got to rely on their caddy. They got to rely on their mental coach and those types of things. And for us, we've got a caddy that walks with us, that wants to carry the burden, carry the load. And what a freeing understanding that is if we can grasp it. And like I said at the beginning of Unpack This, I am wrestling with this. I am trying to understand what it looks like for Jesus to really shoulder the weight, carry the load each day for me, so that I don't let the pressures of life bring me down and ultimately, hit the ball in the water. But like Matsuyama, he did hit it in the water, and then he bounced back on the next hole and finished strong. And so that's the encouragement for us today. Any final words, Luke?
Yeah, just what an encouraging little excerpt from that book. An easy yoke. An easy life isn't an option. An easy yoke is. I mean, a hard life does not mean you don't have an easy yoke. Like easy yoke doesn't mean easy life. Like following Christ is hard, but the yoke is easy. The yoke is easy because we've been rescued from death, and we have true life. And that, oh man, that's something to memorize right there. I forgot about that line in the book. That book is incredible. I recommend everyone to read it. He encourages some aspects of minimalism, and just almost like untethering everything in your life. Like, okay, what matters, what doesn't matter. And like perspective-wise, material things-wise, it's an incredibly practical and convicting book that definitely encourages you to make some changes. And I just love the book. So it encouraged me to make some changes in my life. And yeah, it's just real practical, real easy read, very convicting, full of truth. Highly recommend everyone to get their hands on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me read in Matthew again, where it says, this is the Amplified Version, where Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, following me as my disciple, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest, renewal, blessed quiet for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear and my burden is light." So hopefully that's freeing for people today. And to Luke's point earlier, the pressure to try to earn salvation, that's been removed because of what Jesus did on the cross and resurrecting. And so we praise God for that today. And it's so fun to take a look at the Masters related to the Bible, related to our own lives. And so we'll send out a devotional later today that you can make sure you subscribe to on unpackingit.com. All right. So we want to talk Masters a little bit more as well. And so a couple of the other guys we need to talk about in a little bit. We got to talk about Jordan Spieth. Got to talk about Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, some surprises from the weekend. But I do want to go back a little bit and go back to last Monday night before we do Masters, Luke. Okay. Let's talk about the national championship game and the fact that Baylor got it done. And from the tip until the very end, they absolutely dominated. They were more athletic. They were stronger. They were better. They were better rebounders. They grabbed every loose ball. They hit every shot. Did they miss the entire night? I was still waiting for Baylor to miss.
Yeah,
I don't think that happened. And so it was unbelievable. They didn't force the three. They worked the three into their game. And so they were able to get to the rim, easy baskets, then kick it out, knock down threes. And so right now, we have a special guest on our show because he won the Unpacking It Bracket Challenge. It is Brian in Philly with the win. Brian, congratulations on winning the Bracket Challenge. And part of your prize was being interviewed right here on the Unpacking It Live podcast. How are you, man? How you doing?
Hey, dreams come true. That's all I can say.
This is what you've dreamed of. That's right. Well, all right. So we got to go back to your bracket strategy. Why did you pick Baylor? And there were a few other people in the pool that picked Baylor as well, but you surpassed them. So what was your trick?
For me, I felt Baylor from the jump, start of the year. I know they went through a bunch of COVID related layoffs and things, but they're just, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think they were so athletic, great shooting team. And like you said, they picked their places to shoot and times to shoot so well that, they just always find the open man. But Gonzaga, I don't know. I just had a feeling at the start that it's so difficult to go undefeated in any sport, but especially college basketball, playing 30, 40 games. It's almost impossible.
Yeah. Well, and part of me wanted to see Gonzaga do it. Like people listening to the show, I was all in on Gonzaga, and I wanted them to go undefeated. But once the game was over and having experienced Baylor's dominance and then reflecting on their unbelievable story where that program was done. I mean, they were absolutely done. Now, it took a couple decades to get to this point, but to actually win a championship after all of that, and even after the last couple of years where they've gotten decent seeds, but then they've gone down early, for them to get the win was very impressive. So I was actually happy to see them win. So for you, Brian, from a rooting standpoint, this idea of wanting Gonzaga to go undefeated, but then finding yourself, obviously you wanted to win the bracket, but rooting for the Baylor story. What did you think of that?
Right. I was kind of pulling, outside of the bracket. I was pulling for Gonzaga. I love their story. I love Mark Few. I think he's a top coach in the country, if not the top coach. And Baylor, like you said, it's kind of a comeback story. I think some of the stories that I've read about some of their players as well, having a pretty tough go of it in life leading up to this, but it really was just a great thing to see them win it all. I kind of feel for them because it doesn't feel like a normal championship this year, which kind of stinks for them, but maybe that's just me, but
yeah, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point because Luke, do you feel that way? Like to me, the Lakers winning in the bubble was very interesting too. Like I still think the Lakers were the best team in the NBA, but the bubble was weird. Like that was a weird experience. I didn't find the NCAA tournament to be as weird as the NBA bubble, and I'm not willing to say either one of those teams deserves an asterisk because the Baylor proved that they were the best team. Because to your point, Brian, from the very beginning of the season, it was them and Gonzaga. It was one of those two teams. They were very, on paper, both expected to have awesome seasons. And then we got to see them matched up, and Baylor, without a doubt, proved, hey, we're the best team in the country. So I'm fine with them. I don't have to put an asterisk on it. Where do you come out on that, Luke?
Well, yeah, no asterisks at all. Like, it's a well-earned championship for sure. But as a player, you want the fans there, obviously. Like,
definitely.
I always like to have the fans there, to the celebration of the buzzer going off, people are going crazy. Like, of course you miss out on that, but I don't think lack of fans, the style of the tournament takes away from the championship because every team had the same thing.
Yes.
I just think it takes away from the feeling of glory that the players have felt in past years.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because Brian, what was your kind of thought on that as far as why you felt it was different for Baylor?
I think it was a little bit more normal to me anyway than the Lakers, but I think it's also because we experienced a bubble with the Lakers, so
good point.
It felt a little more regular, but
the time of year.
What's that?
Well, it was like the Lakers won in like August, or I don't know, I guess it was August when they finally won. Whereas we just saw the championship like normal. It was the normal time of the year, which was nice.
Right. And the tournament games are normally people are not going to those games that, you're not traveling around the country going to those games. So it kind of, you're always watching it on TV.
True.
So it kind of felt a little normal.
Yep. No, which was nice. So, all right. So Brian won the bracket challenge. We had, let's see, 53 bracket entries. So 1 out of 53. So that's pretty strong. And so Brian, your final 4 was Baylor, Gonzaga, Florida State, and Illinois, which is just, interesting because it seems like very few people had 3 correct Final Fours, let alone 4 correct Final Four. So you were able to win with just 2 correct, which is impressive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people actually selected Baylor to win it. So no, I'm sorry, 4. Only 4 people. Only 4 people had Baylor winning it all. So you were one of them, and you got the win, and that's pretty sweet. So congrats.
Yeah, appreciate it, Bryce.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks for calling in today, and glad to have you on the show. And before we let you go, knowing that you're up in Philly, the Eagles, of course, have been a team on everybody's radar. And so as an Eagles fan, what's your take on kind of the current state of the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's a great question. During the Carson Wentz thing, I think that whole saga, I think a lot of fans got pretty upset with the Eagles. But I feel a kind of resurgence. The draft, the trades they've made, they've picked up a couple of players. They got the linebacker the other day from the Vikings. I think the huge hole that they were able to fill. And, people are excited for what's to come. They have draft picks in the future. Of course, we want to win now. We want things to happen immediately.
That's right.
But I really think that the team is heading in a direction, and whereas they kind of felt like they had no idea what direction they were going in a month ago, and now it feels like they do know and they do have a plan. Whether Jalen Hurts is the answer, I don't know, but at least they're moving in a direction.
Yeah, no, that's a good take, and yeah, it's hard to go through the rebuild, especially when you think of a Super Bowl. It was just a few years ago. How quickly the Eagles have gone a different direction. So you always hope that you could just rebuild and reload and keep the run as long as possible. But at least you guys got the Super Bowl, so that's the key. So you can hang on to that a little bit longer, I guess. But anyway, thanks for all your support, and we'll talk to you at the Unpacked lunch on Wednesdays. So Brian is a part of that, and so we encourage everybody, if you're interested in joining us on a Wednesday, basically it's a virtual lunch. We talk sports, faith, and life, sports fans around the country. And so it's always a lot of fun. And so you can email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com, if you want to join us and be a part of that. But Brian, have an awesome week, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome, Bryce. Thank you.
All
and
right.
Go Cats.
There you go. He's a Villanova fan as well. So glad to have Brian on and celebrate his bracket win. So for those of you that missed out on the bracket challenge this year, be sure to join us for that next year. Keep an eye out for that. We also did a Sweet 16 challenge, and Paul won that by picking Baylor. So that was pretty cool. All right, so we're running out of time here on the show, but I did want to get into the Masters a little bit more, and so. See, there we go. All right, we're all set. So Luke, let's bring you back on here. And so I think a couple of the storylines for me, one, the Masters being back in April was awesome. I had a tough time getting into the November Masters. That just wasn't great to me. And the fact that Dustin Johnson won, who again was a worthy winner. Like, we know how great Dustin Johnson is. And so I don't want to put an asterisk next to his name, but it did hit me yesterday. The poor guy has only been a Masters champ for a few months, and he's already had to hand off the jacket to somebody else. Yeah. That doesn't seem right. I hate that for him. And on the flip side, Tiger was the Masters champ for so much longer. The epic match, what year was that? The years now.
2019.
2019 when Tiger won. He got to be longer champion. Same in March Madness because there was no champion last year. So Virginia got to be the champion for the reigning champ for longer, which both of those are very worthy champions. I was happy about both those stories extending longer. But poor Dustin Johnson. And then he comes out this past weekend, did not play very well. That was rough. No. That was not a great follow-up performance for him.
Yeah. Kevin Kissner, a tour player, had a very excellent tweet. He said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, he feels bad for people whose first Masters was in November, and they're out here this April thinking, what on earth is going on? Because, yes, Dustin Johnson, rightful winner, he can't control that it's in November, the conditions are different. But it was soft greens, players could throw darts, could attack pins, and it played nothing like it did this April, where it's firm and fast, and you have to play a lot of defensive golf. So, I mean, Dustin Johnson went out and dominated, set the record for highest score, but maybe not his win deserves an asterisk, but maybe the highest score record does because it wasn't normal April Masters.
Yep.
But yeah, props to him. It doesn't even make the cut and then has to come back and put the jacket on. I'm sure he wanted to just head home, get out of there, but he had to stay in Augusta, put the jacket on.
That's so tough because you love being in that situation because that means you're a champ.
Yeah.
But when you just played poorly,
it's almost embarrassing a little bit.
Oh, it's tough. Or when you just lost a close one. I don't know how often that's happened.
In 2016, it's one of the most brutal photos ever taken.
Speed.
2016 falls up. He was up 5 shots with 6 holes left.
Yeah.
And Danny Willett, his first ever PGA Tour win. Oh, it's just sickening to think about. Nothing against Danny Willett, but just So Spieth has to put the jacket on Danny Willett in the cabin. So there's a picture of Spieth just death staring at the camera. Oh, just brutal, so brutal.
Yeah, you don't wish that on anyone. That's a tricky one. Speaking of Spieth, I thought he played great. I thought he was right there, in contention. And Matsuyama just went out and won the tournament. But Spieth, I don't consider him losing the tournament. I thought him and Zalatoris, I thought they played really well to where I didn't think that they lost it. Whereas Schauffele, he kind of lost it at the end. I mean, I know he was going for it and he was trying to, he had to make a run and it just didn't work out. And listening to him after the round, back to kind of the point earlier about the pressure, it wasn't that he got caught up in the moment. He was just trying something. It just didn't work out. Him and his caddy just both knew, we just missed that one.
Yeah. And what's interesting, he said he's been taking advice from veterans who always say, so Bones, Phil Mickelson's old caddy, said the ball always flies farther on 16. So he went a club less than what he normally would do, and it just ended up just short. Spieth played great. Spieth's so good for golf. He talks to his ball. He's animated. I love player caddy conversations. The worst thing a broadcast can do is over talk. Because what's the Masters app? Oh, I just have something. The Masters app is the best app ever created. It blows the March Madness app out of the water. I should have done this for I'm Convinced, because there's no commercials. You click on the coverage, like the featured group, the broadcast, holes 15 and 16. You don't have to watch an ad like the horrific ESPN app. It's so bad. I want to watch a 10-second highlight from a Mavericks game. Let me watch a 30-second ad. So bad. March Madness, I have to watch ads. But the Masters app is great. And on the featured groups, you get to hear players and caddies talk, which is the best part of the broadcast. You get to hear the strategy. So I
didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, so there's the featured group. There's holes 4, 5, and 6. There's holes 15, 16, Amen Corner, and the broadcast. The Masters app is unbelievably incredible. So very, very satisfied there. I want to hype up Hideki Matsuyama because no one saw him coming. He hasn't had a top 10 in a major since 2017. So the thing with him is people thought he just didn't putt well enough to get it done, because he's an incredible ball striker. His iron play, his approach shots are so good. He just hasn't had consistent putting to get it done. And like you said, the pressure of an entire nation was rooting for him. Max Homa, tour player, tweeted, "I get nervous playing for my family." I can't imagine what Matsuyama was thinking playing for an entire nation. It was cool getting the Japanese broadcast in there, but
yes, I love the Japanese broadcast.
Yeah, so
and this
cool.
is across sports too. Like I love listening to the local broadcast. Like during a national game, like going to the local broadcast for one of the big calls, I think is great. And then especially like here for the Panthers, we have a Spanish broadcast that does really well in regards to excitement and people. They've kind of developed a little following. So anyway, so I love that with the Japanese. That was really cool.
And it's just, I always love to acknowledge how impressive it is to be in a country where you're not speaking your native language. Because yes, he's been in America for years. He was the low amateur 10 years ago at the Masters. But to be interviewed and to be on national TV, to be in the spotlight, like imagine the discomfort of being in another country and ordering at a restaurant. Now imagine that causes some discomfort. And then to be interviewed on the national stage and have to if you don't have a translator, to be able to muster up some of the language. Like Dirk talked about that, the first part of his career, he was so insecure about not knowing English. For Matsuyama, like that is uncomfortable to have to use a translator, to not like. I was just like, man, his friends that are at the course with him, let him walk with his friends. He's in. It's uncomfortable. So I always like to acknowledge that. Very, very impressive to be on national television, not in your native language.
And yeah, like I was saying earlier, just to win on Sunday, like to have the lead and then hang on and get it done. Yeah. And, you compare it to Justin Rose, who jumped out early in the tournament and kind of, let it slip away. Unfortunately. And then, for Spieth, I guess I was saying he didn't lose the tournament. I guess he did have that big bogey on 9 on Thursday, but that was kind of early on.
Yeah.
I thought he put together, just a great, kind of comeback and just a very solid performance. And to follow up, because there was some, pressure on him and attention on him for winning last weekend, to then come in and do well. And really, of the big name guys, I mean, you think about, Rory did not play well. Koepka coming off an injury did not play well. We mentioned Johnson. Sergio, of course, he got his Masters win and forget about it after that. Then I haven't even heard about him lately. And then Jason Day, I mean, goodness, we haven't heard much about him in a while. So all those guys missed the cut. And then everybody's favorite, Bryson DeChambeau, he had a terrible weekend. He showed like glimpses at one point where he like kind of made a comeback and then he faded. And then everybody's favorite winner, Patrick Reed. Oh gosh, he made quite the comeback too. He jumped into top 10.
Yeah,
and then my boy Webb Simpson, man, he played well, but still finished 12th. So I also like Stuart Sink. He finished 12th as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then we'll talk about Finau in a moment. So anyway, I will say this: as much as I liked Zalatoris, I also came around on Schauffele. I like Xander Schauffele. I'm going to start rooting for him a little bit more as well.
Easy to root for him. I think
Very likable.
I hope it doesn't turn into a Finau type where he just can't get it done, because he got his
That's
tour
what he is
card
right now.
in 2017, and he I think has 5 wins. Like he began his career on fire, and every other player on tour always talks about how good he is. So yeah, easy player to root for.
Yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the weekend. The one other thing, just seeing fans back at Augusta was awesome. And in reading a little bit about it, just a reminder that at the Masters, there are no phones. There are no cell phones. And as much as everybody would love to, take the photos and Twitter live and do all that kind of stuff, Facebook live, and hey, I'm at the Masters. How great is it that the patrons at the Masters, no phones, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And also apparently Will Zalatoris did not have his phone all week. So he went dark for the week. Wow. He was able to focus on golf. And how cool is that? We can barely go 5 seconds without our phone. Another thing that I've been reading about in this wonderful book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, but just our addiction to the phones as well. So anyway, I appreciate that the Masters has stuck with that policy. Good for them. And it's good for fans and patrons as well, because you're able to enjoy the moment. You soak in the moment. You actually look up instead of looking at your silly phone. You're looking up and you're hearing the birds chirp. You're seeing the green grass. And so my question that reminds me, at the beginning of the show, I asked, what does watching the Masters make you want to do? For me, it makes me want to work on my lawn. I don't want to get out and play golf. I watch and go, gosh, I can't hit these shots. I stink. I can't do it. I want to go work on my lawn. I want a green grass. I want my lawn to look like Augusta. That's what I want. I want some nice flowers out there. I want the ponds that are just, I don't even know what they are. They're like blue. They're not even like, I guess they're clear, but they're just they're otherworldly is what they are. They don't even make sense. It's not real water, but it's beautiful. I want all of that. So that's what it makes me do. I imagine the Masters makes you want to go play golf.
Yeah, well, when the Masters is over, and watching the Masters makes me want to watch more Masters. But as soon as the tournament's over, I want to get out there and play so badly. So I think I'm playing Thursday, which is huge.
There you go. I think it's probably been a couple years since I've played, so maybe a little putt. May have done putt. But anyway, I'm one of those guys that like loves watching golf but doesn't necessarily like playing it. So probably one of the rare ones. All right, so we are in overtime right now here on the Unpacking It Live podcast. But for those of you that have stuck with us for the hour, for those of you that have
overtime, baby.
Jumped in right now, we've got a special treat for you. We are making a kind of a debut. We're bringing it back. We call it Tap Drill. We're going to tap around a couple topics to end the show, a couple random topics, a couple fun things, and we are bringing on Henry Bienamine. He is back on with us. We had him a couple weeks ago when Luke was at his honeymoon, but Henry is back. Henry, how are you, man?
What's going on, boys? How you doing?
Doing great. Appreciate all your help behind the scenes, and glad to have you kind of lead us on this kind of new segment that we're going to wrap up the show with, called Tap Drill. So you take it away. You ask the questions. Luke and I will respond.
All right, let's hit it. You guys were talking about golf, about the crowd not having their phones. One guy, and Bryce, you touched on it a little bit. One guy who did have his phone is your boy Tony Finau. He got a FaceTime call from none other than Super Bowl champion Tom Brady himself during a Masters raid delay. So they were talking, and he said down. They didn't say whether or not that he gave him a pep talk or anything like that. But my question to you guys is that who's the one person that you want FaceTiming you during a rain delay on the golf course?
Oh, that's a great question.
Luke, you can jump in first.
Oh, well, if I want a golfer, it'd be Spieth. But if any other person, I'll toss in my wife. Yeah, I need a FaceTime from the wife. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
An athlete, Luke. Come on. Newly married man.
Hey, I'm a newlywed. I'm for sure saying my wife. Come on now. But
get out of here with that.
With hands down.
Who's a famous athlete that you want calling? If you're in Tony Finau's situation, who's popping up on the screen that you want?
Yeah. As an aside, weird connection, Tom Brady calling Finau. Not sure what's going on there. But for
Very
me,
random.
absolutely the big German, Dirk Diggler, Dirk Nowitzki, my sports hero. Oh, the hero of Dallas. I need him giving me a FaceTime as I enter in Sunday at Augusta.
So I'll go Peyton Manning then. Because I think he could give you a nice little pep talk, but he could also maybe lighten the mood. He's funny, couple nice jokes. That'd be fun to catch up with Peyton Manning in the middle of a rain delay. That's where I would go. All right, Henry, what's next?
All right, boys, let's go into the world of basketball, so to speak. The Minnesota Timberwolves have a new owner, and
Speaking of random.
and it's such a random guy. Alex Rodriguez, former Major League Baseball player, has decided he couldn't buy the New York Mets, thankfully. He winds up buying both the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx. So what do you guys think about him not being able to own a baseball team, but winds up owning a basketball team?
Well, a couple things. So one, so random, so weird. Baseball, basketball, no connection really to Minnesota. It's interesting. But on another note, they need a new owner because the Timberwolves have been a wasteland in the NBA since Kevin Garnett and Stephon Marbury had a little run there for a while. So they need some kind of, a fresh perspective, a new owner, new blood, all that kind of thing. But is Alex Rodriguez going to be flying? Like, is he going to live there? Is he going to go to the games? Like your boy Mark Cuban goes to the games? Like my boy Michael Jordan here at the Hornets? I can't imagine that he's flying up to Minnesota in the middle of November or December to watch the Timberwolves and that ragtag group up there. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of impact he'll ultimately be able to have.
Yeah, it's so odd. I don't understand. But it reminds me of Bob Sturm out of Dallas tweeted. So the Timberwolves valuation, 2010, $265 million they're worth. 2021, $1.4 billion. And Sturm's tweet was, why do owners believe they are untouchable in every regard? And that's why. The Timberwolves have their valuation, their value has grown that much, and they've been atrocious for so long.
Crazy.
So yeah.
Yep, it's interesting.
And doesn't Alex Rodriguez still have to work on his relationship with J-Lo? Didn't he just almost get left at the altar recently?
Ooh, yeah.
Certainly some issues going on relationally.
I haven't kept up with their relationship too much. I can't offer much insight.
So this is something that was near and dear to Bryce's heart. Aaron Rodgers, and he's in the middle of his stint as Jeopardy host. Now he's also in a little bit of a quandary with the Green Bay Packers. Is this Jeopardy stint kind of a bad look, do you think?
Just take the job. Take over. He's done. He's done as a quarterback. He found his next gig. Enough of the shenanigans. Enough of the back and forth with the Packers. Do they want him? Do they not want him? How much longer do they want him? I'm tired of it all. Just go host Jeopardy, baby. He's doing awesome. I've only watched one episode so far, but I've got it DVR'd and queued up. I'll watch the rest of them. I enjoy him. I think he's done a great job. I think he's got the right kind of personality, demeanor. He had little quick jabs and funny one-liners. I thought he's done a pretty nice job.
I struggle. So I'm a huge Jeopardy fan. And I know Aaron Rodgers.
Any of the answers?
Well, I go for about 3 to 5. That's my goal. 3 to 5 per round.
Fair.
Or I just watch Kid Jeopardy so I can actually get some questions right.
Oh, there you go.
But Alex Trebek is just, I don't know how he can be replaced. He is such an icon. But I will agree. I think Rodgers did a fairly nice job with his demeanor because you don't want a super animated person hosting Jeopardy. That's just not what the show's going for. Alex Trebek was very calm, cool, and collected. So it was fun to see.
Here's my take on Alex Trebek. It is absolutely incredible the run that he had to have that longevity and the simplicity of that job. Like watching Aaron Rodgers made me realize that Alex Trebek figured out how to fit into such a simple game and not get in the way. And so to not get in the way, to have such a small role, yet to have such a big impact and be so important to the success of the show with such little opportunity to actually be the difference in the show is remarkable. Like I don't even know how to fully explain it, but that's the genius aspect of it, I guess.
Yeah, because the players love him. He is beloved for how relatively little he does compared to other like show hosts.
Yeah.
The contestants loved him. So
just the quick little one-liners, the quick questions to the contestants, and the aura that he actually knew all the answers.
And
we thought he knew all the answers.
His pronunciation of words is second to none. Unbelievable.
True. That's a good point. All right, Henry, let's do one more. Then we got to wrap up.
All right, boys. Something near and dear to my heart this weekend. They actually made it a 2-night event. Was WrestleMania. WrestleMania was Saturday and Sunday. So, boys, my final question: who's your favorite wrestler?
Gosh, so I haven't been into wrestling probably when I was in middle school. Like that was probably the last time and that was kind of the height of it too. That was the NWO and all that kind of thing. So I was a decent fan at that time. Used to play the video game and that kind of thing. But I am out on wrestling, so I haven't kept up with it. I'm kind of as I appreciate you like it, Henry. One of my good friends, Ron, loves it as well. But I'm out. I can't get into it. It's too much shenanigans for me. But I like The Rock. I like The Rock now. Like I watch almost all of his movies. So I was watching Walking Tall the other day. Oh my goodness, The Rock is the man. So anyway, Luke, are you into wrestling? What's your take on that?
Well, all my buddies on their old PSPs, their game device, would play WWE, and I never got huge into it. I had some wrestling action figures, so that was my claim to fame there. But my favorite guy is the guy that comes from behind and does the TKO, who'll like jump up, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's become like a meme legend.
You're talking about Randy Orton with the
That's
RKO.
right, Randy Orton, the RKO. Yeah, the RKO. I'm a big Randy Orton guy. I think he's a legend.
As a matter of fact, Bryce, The Rock actually has a TV show now where he's running for president.
That one's Young Rock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got it on the DVR. I haven't watched it yet. So we'll see if I get around to it. But Henry, appreciate it. The debut of Tap Drill, that was fun. We'll keep making that hopefully a part of our show. So thanks to Henry. Thanks to Luke. It's been great being with you guys today, talking Masters and the national championship. It's crazy how quickly we move on. That was only a week ago. But congrats to Baylor for getting the win. I was happy for Scott Drew. Now we shift our attention to the NFL draft. So we'll start talking about that, kind of the NFL offseason these next couple of weeks as well. The NBA playoffs heating up. My fantasy playoffs for the NBA are heating up as well. I'm in second place. Had a tough week though, some injuries. But anyway, we'll be back next Monday. We'll also keep an eye out for the Unpacking It podcast, some other interviews throughout the week. Hopefully we'll load up with that. But for Henry and Luke, I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. Sign up for the next virtual trivia night. That's coming up on April 22nd. Go to unpackingit.com. Also, sign up for Unpack This on unpackingit.com as well. You'll receive that devotional in your email inbox. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It Live podcast.